Day 10. Today we listen to the 1985 album Play Deep by the band The Outfield. Funny fact about The Outfield, they're from the UK, and before they came to America, they had no idea what an outfield was. They'd never seen a baseball game, didn't know what an outfield was. Their original name was the Baseball Boys, which was a take on a gang name from the movie The Warriors. The gang was called the Baseball Furies. That's where they got the whole baseball motif. They had no idea though what an outfield was until they came to America and saw a baseball game. So this was their debut album. And the reason I added this album to my list, and this is going to be kind of a long reasoning why I added it. Um, so in 2020, right before the lockdown, there was an 80s cruise, which you may have heard that, you may not have heard of that, I don't know. But it's hosted by the original MTV VJs, Mark Goodman, Alan Hunter, and Nina Blackwood was on that one. And Tony Lewis, who is the bass player, lead singer for the Outfield, was an artist on the cruise. The principal songwriter and guitar player, uh, his name is John Spinks. He passed away in 2014, and I guess Tony Lewis hadn't really done much up until right before the cruise, and he put out a solo album, I think, and then went on the cruise. He did some of his stuff and did some Outfield stuff. Told you this is a long story. So anyway, after the cruise, every time Mark Goodman and Alan Hunter played an Outfield song, they raved about how good Tony Lewis's performance was, and that he still sounded like he did when he was with the Outfield. Uh, and they really started saying that more. So Tony Lewis passed away suddenly in October of 2020, and so they really have the past couple of years have still raved about his performance on that cruise whenever they play an Outfield song. And so I decided I had never heard the album. I'd heard all of their radio stuff from the first two or three albums, but never listened to an entire album. And so when I was making the list, and I remember them talking about how good the performance was, and how I believe it was Mark Goodman that said that the original album was really like a, a gem, a hidden gem. Despite having three singles, the rest of the album was really good. So I added. So short story long, that's why this album got added to the list. So anyway, they had three singles off of this album. Everybody knows Your Love. There was another song called Say It Isn't So, and I can't remember the name of the third single. That was it got into the top 20. So I knew all those songs. As far as the entire album goes, it's a good album. The Tony Lewis has been quoted as saying they wanted to create an album that you could put in your car stereo and drive around, and that be your soundtrack to whatever you were doing. And I can see that. I can see how it would be that. There's a couple other songs on there that I like. Everybody likes Your Love, right? I mean, it's pretty much synonymous with the '80s. That song. Um, there's a couple other songs that I like actually more than their singles. There's a song called 61 Seconds that's kind of catchy that I really like. And then the album ends, which this didn't happen a lot in the 80s, but the album ends with a slow song. And they have a slow, really weird song to end their album called Nervous Alibi, which when I first started listening to it, I was, but the more I listened to it, and I made myself listen to it again, it's a weird song, and it's weird enough that I liked it. Kind of like I said the other day with No Doubt and Tragic Kingdom, that song Tragic Kingdom. It's just weird enough that I really liked it. I like the album. It's not. I mean, it. I wouldn't say that it was a hidden gem like Mark Goodman said. I think it was Mark Goodman who said that. But it's a good album. You can. It's definitely what they said. It's a put it in your car stereo and drive around. A lot of the songs sound the same. They have the same Of course, they're produced by the same person, but that everything, there a lot of their riffs sound the same. What I think makes the Outfield unique in their sound is that Tony Lewis's voice is so high that when they harmonize, they have to harmonize lower than him, and so that gives them a unique. Most people, harmonize, above what the melody is, and because his voice is so high, uh, a lot of their songs they harmonize below him, and it gives it kind of this unique sound. And there's even a song on there where the where John Spinks and Tony Lewis, I think they trade off uh, singing lead, and you can just tell how different the song sounds when someone with just a normal register for their voice sounds with their songs, and how their songs sound when Tony Lewis sings in that higher register. It gives them a unique sound. I've always liked that about them. It's always been easy to sing harmony to their songs because it's lower. But anyway, it's a good album. I think we hear all we really need to hear when we hear the singles off of this album. I honestly don't really remember the other. There's actually three other singles that came off this album besides Your Love. I don't really remember hearing them in the 80s. I've heard them more now that I listen to 80s on 8 on XM. And then they have a couple of other singles from the next two albums, and I've heard those songs more now in the last 5 years or so on 80s on 8 than I remember them from the 80s. That's not to say they're bad songs. I just don't remember them as much as I remember Your Love. So it doesn't make me want to go out and search their catalog for other songs. They do have some other some other hidden gems on their other albums, but that's neither here nor there. This is a good album. It's worth a listen. Like I said, the songs get kind of repetitive and sounding the same. I'm not gonna lie. I know he sings in a high register, and he's a lot of his songs that fits perfectly. But on a lot of these songs, that higher voice just starts to wear on you. So some of the songs get a little old, a little quickly. But it's a good listen. It's worth your time to listen to it once if you want to. If you don't, you've heard the singles off the album. If you listen to the radio or if you listen to XM, you've heard pretty much probably all you're really going to need in life. So that's day 10.